Good evening and welcome to this edition of Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of news and current affairs here in Mongolia with Jargal Defacto and myself, Grace Brown. We're live on Facebook at V Television. You can also follow the conversation on Twitter, #Defacto, coming up on the program. Mongolians welcome the Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, despite warnings from Beijing. Global credit rating agency Moody's downgrades Mongolia after negative growth in the first 9 months. The recently ousted Democratic Party tries to figure out their next steps after losing by a landslide in parliamentary elections. Rio Tinto appoints Mongolian ex-banker Boldbarter to its executive board. And one of the country's wrestling champions returns from Japan, clinching his 1,000th win. We'll be discussing why Mongolian sumos are on top. Thank you for joining us. We begin with our top story, the visit of Tibet's spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, to Mongolia. His visit came despite a stern warning from China's foreign ministry not to invite him in. He managed to draw crowds of thousands yesterday at the Gandan monastery, many Mongolian Buddhist worshippers turning out to hear him speak. Jargal, what was, in your view, the purpose of the Dalai Lama's visit?
It's very clear. He is visiting, His Holiness is visiting Mongolia by the invitation of Mongolian religious community. Though I recently found also religious community inside, although some of them, depending on the groups, have different opinions on one side. In general, this visit became rather dividing the country people's opinion. One side says that it's good that we can invite him because we are an independent country, we can invite whoever we want, etc. The other side saying that no, it is not correct because it is a time when we so much dependent on China, in particular at this time of current deficit situation, budget deficit situation, why we should why we should bother Chinese, get them unhappy with that visit. So this is countries divided in a way. The
timing is awkward, isn't it? Because you have next week a meeting between the Deputy Prime Minister and senior Chinese officials to try and negotiate potentially a loan, a 20-year loan at 2% interest rates over the course of 2 decades. And initially, Chinese President Xi Jinping seemed to be considering this. We don't know what the impact of this visit will be on that decision, of course.
Yeah, but unlike many other countries, this is a democratic country.
Yes.
And people, we do what the majority of people want to do. This is the democracy, the concept of democracy. And of course, the last Friday spokesperson of Chinese Foreign Ministry strongly recommended not to invite him, to allow him, etc. But our Foreign Minister Moon Korgul had made a statement publicly and internationally, announcement that this is not at all related with the government, official policy of the government.
That's right. They said it's a purely religious visit.
Yeah, he made very clear statement, the differences between the positions. So, which is, I think, that's what we were expecting. So we see in general Mongolians that this is Dalai Lama visit is by the request of majority of Mongolians we are mostly a Buddhist country.
Yeah.
And we pray Dalai Lama for spiritual leadership.
And so many people came on Saturday. I was there filming, and you just couldn't get through. The crowds were so thick. Maybe thousands of people, and many of them were Buryati. They'd come from near the Russian border to be here. Some
beyond
even
Russian
from
border.
Bayanhongor.
This Buddhist this sphere, space in Northeast Asia is quite huge.
Yeah.
Dalai Lama is very strong religious leader. That's why so many Mongolians are here in Ulaanbaatar today. But on the other hand, all this will be reflected. How it will be reflected, well, the time will show from next week.
Yes, yes. It's well, it's quite a packed visit. He is going to be receiving a honorary PhD from the Agricultural University of Mongolia on Tuesday, and he's also lecturing on religious topics tomorrow at the Cultural Center. So it seems that the itinerary is indeed very much spiritual in nature. He's staying at Ektenga, though, the presidential complex, which is interesting.
Probably this is a security safety reason, probably. In general, Dalai Lama, I had a chance to interview him 2 years ago.
Wow.
In New Delhi, and that was very interesting to learn that Buddhism is divided, this teaching can be divided into 3 pieces, philosophy, science, and the religion. And he mostly talking about this philosophy part of it, which is kind of spiritual directions for many Mongolians. I think mostly Mongolians looking for that, because but if you see, because this 70 years, 80 years dominance of capitalist communist system, people are mostly atheistic. But now I think they are looking for, searching for the particular spiritual leadership. In that regard, I think it can be a good contribution towards making Mongolia more calm, more better place.
Yeah, more moral compasses.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because, of course, Mongolia and Tibet have religious and spiritual ties dating back to, I think, the 16th century.
Correct.
And, you know, there have been some rumors that on this trip, potentially, the Dalai Lama could help to recommend or point out where the 10th Bogd Khan.
Reincarnation of the...
Yes. Is that likely to happen, do you think? I mean, state media have denied it, we should add, but...
On that note, previously Dalai Lama said that this next reincarnation of next Bogda, before it was permitted by Tibet under the Manchu dynasty, when altogether we were under Manchu dynasty. Not anymore the case, so it is not necessarily to have confirmation from Dalai Lama, basically what he said. So I don't think it will be straight or indirect or direct kind of proclamation of this sort of reincarnation this time.
Oh, well, we'll just have to keep an eye on it for
Correct. Yes.
the future. Yeah, it would be a big
That reincarnation
deal
will be whoever comes from Mongolia, from wherever. That will be an important landmark for further development of Buddhist religion as it is in Mongolia.
And the Bogd Khan, just for viewers, foreign viewers in particular, who may not know what that is, could you explain? It's a spiritual leader.
Buddhism as such has 3 directions.
Yeah.
One is with Tibet and Mongolia, and the other is North China, and the 3 directions. And each of them has a religious leader. And the Mongolian part has a Bogd, Panchung Bogd, the other side. And now when the Bogd is passing away and being reincarnated, found the reincarnation in a little boy somewhere.
Yeah.
By many, there's features that the boy recognizes, like the own one, etc. There's a lot of traditions there. I'm not an expert of that, but I understand that reincarnation of next Bogd is going to be an important event in Mongolian religion.
Yes, absolutely. Well, moving on to a topic that is related to this, obviously the economic implications, potential diplomatic and economic implications of Mongolia's ties with China. It comes also just the same day that the global credit rating agency Moody's downgraded Mongolia to the credit rating CAA1, which is essentially junk with a stable outlook. That's down from triple B rating, I understand. Jargal, could you tell us a bit more about the concerns that Moody's had in making this
Yes,
decision?
this is a very substantial grading for Mongolia when we need, in particular, more foreign direct investment due to lack of foreign currencies in the country. We have experienced the big fluctuations of devaluation of Mongolia in 2 weeks, last week, for example.
Yes.
At this time, suddenly Moody's downgrading Mongolia. Well, suddenly, I mean, it was expected because I haven't seen for the last 2 to 3 months substantial positive news on the market on the creation of values, competitive values in Mongolia, on substantial change in macroeconomics regulations like budget deficit, there is no gap, I mean, gap is increasing, etc. So Moody's says that why they have downgraded Mongolia from B3, triple B, to CA1, it's not very much desirable. For example, among this, they said our universe of rating country sovereigns. For example, the budget deficit is to be the maximum 5%. Then Mongolia is becoming to the budget deficit of 19.5% of GDP.
So essentially they're concerned.
Yes.
That they're concerned about the government's ability to repay its debts over the next 2 years, right? Including
the two things. One is the uncertainty widens, they say, in payment of indirect or direct payment of debt of Mongolian government for next 2 years, which is coming in March, $580 million, which got a government guarantee. And that was borrowed by Mongolian Development Bank.
Yes.
And this payment is to be done in March. Then December we had to pay $500 million 2017 out of Chinggis bond. So all this service uncertainty of payment, these services are widening. That's what it says first. Second, again, the budget I just now described. They said Mongolian budget is remaining very wide, which causes weaker growth, which certainly logically it goes in that way.
That's right, and growth actually came in at negative 1.6% for the first 9 months of the year, which is, it's pretty shocking actually. That's down from positive 1.4% for the first half. So something pretty bad must have happened in, the third quarter for this
is something
big turnaround.
We see, any economic decisions, whether it's fiscal, monetary, the result will be coming after, say, 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And Mongolian government had issued, many securities, short-term and long-term. Long-term was a year, for 1 year, the rest is smaller. Now, a lot of government securities are being sold to commercial banks. Commercial banks are buying government securities because it's at the rate of 16.9%, almost 17%, which is so high that the banks are not interested at all to make a loan to companies, first. Yeah. Second, June 18th, Mongolian Bank of Mongolia had changed their policy rate.
The central bank raised
from 11 point to 15%, 10.5% to 15%.
So that's great for anybody who wants to save money in Mongolia, obviously. But if you are borrowing, it becomes a lot more expensive, and I guess
that's the case of many Mongolian companies who had borrowed the money. And plus, those who had borrowed in US dollars have a big problem, in particular due to the last week hike. And now, now the rumor is if the commercial banks were at fault, making kind of cartel actions, increasing that rate. But in any case, the central bank had to sell almost upon the demand of the government, about $72 million to get back the rate to the previous positions. So it's very expensive to keep that rate today.
And the reason, another key reason why they raised interest rates was to stabilize the Mongolian currency, the DOWNGRADE, which, as you mentioned, has been extremely volatile in recent weeks. Just days ago, it was trading at around 2,700 to $1.
Which was after the 70+ million US dollar intervention of central bank. It went down back to the 2,400. And today is in a week again to the 2,430 or so. So to keep that rate stable is very expensive in Mongolia. The major reason, of that trend is, if take inside of Mongolia, the dollar is not coming much, but instead many of them are paying debts, paying many, even we have purchased it, for example, for the last 3 months, Erdenet mine with 400 million US dollar, etc. So all US dollars, all foreign currencies going out, very less coming back. As a result, this trend keeps staying there strongly. So it would be very expensive to stop all this trend.
Indeed. Well, moving on, the National Consultative Committee of the Democratic Party, which lost by a landslide in recent parliamentary elections, convened this week to try and map out their steps going forward. Jago, what were the main issues that they tackled?
Well, there are several main issues. And finally they have convened their sessions. It is a national executive committee meeting. Finally, I don't know, they tried at least 5 times. And finally they are there. But bad news is there is no former speaker who was the head of the party. Yes, former Prime Minister Altun Huyag is not there. Former Prime Minister is not there.
Yeah.
So without all these leaders, they had convened that committee meeting, and they agreed to have their Congress on December 6th. But my concern with this political party is they have so poor internal democracy. There are no report about their financing, particularly for last 2 elections, and all Mongolians have been rather disappointed. And so Democratic Party is not just as institutions, political institutions, as a party, but as opposition power. They should give Mongolian electorate a certain hope that they are our opposition voices.
Yeah.
So, which is not the case, and we are waiting for them to have finally concrete decisions, to have on leaders, and to go that convention.
And to announce party reforms.
Yeah, from which we are expecting it should be a very transparent party, including their financing. If not, it is not going to be a serious political power.
That's right. Well, they only hold 9 seats out of 76 in Mongolia's parliament currently. The Mongolian People's Party has an 85% majority, so it's a small opposition, and at the moment it's quite fractured, is it not? The Democratic Party?
Even among the 8 members, they are fractured. And that's very pity, because there could be, if altogether, if have the same opinion, it could be more stronger political leader. Political opposition, which is not the case. So hopefully the Democrats will come together stronger, more without any fractions, because they have zillions of fractions, not much big differences, except I think money they want. Money they have been contributed to the political party, and according to their contribution, they want to have a power. That was their power struggle all the 4 years they had running the country, unfortunately. So hopefully they will not repeat that anymore.
Internal politics always playing a big role there. As we mentioned last week, Mongolia's former Prime Minister, Nurav Altunhuyag, has recently announced that he plans to run for president next year. But in recent weeks and days, in fact, many of his close circle and families have been rounded up by the independent agency against corruption, the IAAC. So what's been going on there, and have they received an opportunity to state their case as well?
My concern is recently people are arrested at the airport a lot. And we don't see the reason why they are arrested. Very broad reason is said. So now questioning an issue, if you are arresting somebody based on that, who that person is a relative of somebody, then any of us can be arrested because we are a relative of somebody too. So the concern is why people are being arrested, why they are not publicly reported the reason about. So that's the concern. If it is according to Mr. Altonhoyag, it is a politically motivated, then please explain. We cannot watching people being arrested like this on one side. On the other side, if it's serious fight, if these people are misused our public fund, please inform us as soon as possible. And everybody who is abusing and mistaking our public funds should have certain responsibility. And there are, we assume, a lot of people like this. And one of the reasons why Tugrik is plunging is because we have been misusing Chinggis Khan bond, came to the country, and we don't have very clear report what happened with each dollar. But we know that, like this arrests, it's related to the sort of misusing by people who had the political power at this time, and we don't exclude that this misusing coming to this current political power as well. And many political cases in this country started very firmly, strongly, then disappear slowly because Democratic Party and People's Party, they keep each other hold biased or hold tied against each other, I think, corruption cases. That's what my biggest worry.
Well, in that list of people who've recently been brought in by the IAAC includes Altonhoyag's wife, Selenge, who was stopped at the border recently following suspicious transactions in her bank account, reportedly suspicious transactions. Also, Altonhoyag's daughter was arrested, his sister's son-in-law, his advisor is in jail, his assistants have been held for some time, and his niece was taken just a few days ago. So the list really goes on. It seems that there's been a targeting of him recently, and perhaps after his announcement even.
Which one is first? An interesting issue. That's what I'm more concerned. He said that he will run for presidency next year just to fight the sort of injustice. So in any case, according to him, it is all these arrests were also politically motivated. So we Mongolian public demands the related agencies, security, these power agencies to explain properly what's going on exactly. And because once if you arrest somebody, then you keep it only 72 hours, not more. So we hope that that it will be clean, and people will not be afraid of being arrested themselves.
Well, that's right, because there were no known charges put against them until they were not informed of why they were being arrested, which is important human right.
That's the concern, because it reminds us the early 80s, late 80s, when people were arrested and they disappeared for quite a long time and you don't know what happened to that person.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will be good in the protecting human rights further down. So we demand at least to make clear explanation of why people are being arrested, and then public should know what's going on.
Yes, indeed. Well, moving on, the global mining giant Rio Tinto recently appointed former Mongolian investment banker Goldwater to its executive board. He will be replacing Alan Davies, who had been sacked following a $10 million bribery scandal in Guinea. So, Jargo, what more do we know about Goldwater?
Well, first of all, Bold was JP Morgan vice president for quite some time after his graduation in the US college, and then a master in Columbia University, and then the man was very successful executive in MP, JP Morgan, and then he came here to run Newcom. Then he was ahead of the Mongolian Stock Exchange, etc.
That's right, and the Mongolian Mining Association as well.
He was hired by Rio Tinto, and during these 2 years, by the way, a very funny thing is, Mongolia is a landlocked country. We don't know nothing about the marine and ocean transportation. But the guy went to Rio Tinto and made very big success in arranging their logistics and ocean transportation things.
That's right.
So that's why he, I think, outstanded there, and now he's promoted to the highest top rank of the executives, 9 persons, and we are very happy to see a Mongolian person. Of course, he's not.
He's the first Mongolian on the Rio Tinto
board. On that level, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why we are happy. Congratulations
it's a big
to him.
move.
Yes.
Yeah. And Rio Tinto CEO Jean-Sébastien Jacques said that, in particular, his understanding of Asia would be crucial here. Do you think, Jargal, that perhaps this could help to improve relations between Rio Tinto and the Mongolian government and the Mongolian people?
Well, Mongolians will be very happy to see on the other side of the table of Mongolians who are running this whole part of this team. Of course, it will be rather helpful than not. But it will be more also inspiration for many young Mongolians. If you work hard, then you can reach at that level of the largest mining transnational corporations in the world.
Yeah.
And on that note, Rio Tinto, like a BHP, is publicly run company. And that's why they will not tolerate the sort of cases where in New Guinea happened. That's why it shows that they are replacing people. As soon as they have something wrong done, they are punishing and they are changing. So that's a good
That's
move.
a good sign, yeah. Well, finally, from corporate wrestling, perhaps, to sumo wrestling, the champion, Yokozuna Hakohu, might sound Japanese, but he is in fact Mongolian, and he's just returned home after clinching his 1,000th victory in Japan. He was competing at the Kyushu Bashu Professional Sumo Championship. So, the world's top 3 sumo wrestlers are actually Mongolian. Why is that? Why are Mongolians such good wrestlers?
Well, it looks like not only... No, I think, to me, the reason is not only because Mongolians are good wrestlers, it's our traditional sport, etc., etc. But the number one reason why Mongolians, the number 3 top sumo wrestlers are Mongolians and will be Mongolians, is because there is a competition among Mongolians there. Not only among other sumo wrestlers, but because there are several Mongolians at the same age, same capacity, same power, same body, comes there and competing, they are competing mostly with each other. That's the reason why Mongolian sumo are successful, and it will be successful as soon as there are more Mongolians out there, which gives a hope that if Mongolians are put on the same level playing field, they can compete. Give that field to everybody, to every company, please. That's the request from the Mongolian government.
That's a very worthy request. Well, thank you, Jargal, for all your insights this evening. And that brings this edition of Defacto Review to an end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you can tune in again next week. From us and the team behind the scenes, Saichen Amrare, and good night.
Good night.